Greetings of peace, and thanks for tuning in. May the peace and blessings of Allah be with you. So in these videos, we prepare for the arrival of Imam Mahdi, as well as the return of Jesus, peace and blessings be upon them, and they're also known as the Mashiachs in the Jewish tradition. So in this video, we're going to be looking at the importance of patience, especially that we're in the midst of global injustice. And as Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, have said, the Mahdi will be from my lineage, with a curved nose. He will fill the earth with justice and equity, just as has been filled with tyranny and oppression, and he will rule for 7 years. So we can see today that the world is full of injustice. They corrupt our skies with chemtrails, they poison the water with heavy metals and fluoride, they poison the food with GMOs and pesticides. The governments are corrupt to the core. They do not judge according to Allah's laws, so they are highly unjust. The governments that are more just are the ones who follow God's laws. The financial system is corrupt with the usury financial system. It's a debt slave note. The dollar, it's just an instrument of debt and interest. So if you got $1 million in your bank, you have 1 million debt notes back, that have to be paid back in interest. So the whole system is corrupted. This is plain to see for anyone who has eyes and ears to hear. But we have good news and hope that Imam Mahdi is alive and well here on the earth. I think there's a lot of evidence to support that claim that Imam Mahdi is alive and well somewhere on the earth. And we can see how Imam Mahdi can change the world by changing one's minds and one's actions. As Allah says in chapter 13, verse 11, Verily, Allah does not change a condition of a people until they first change their ways and their minds. So we are all one within Allah. There's sort of, you could say as a metaphor, that there's Allah's Wi-Fi, that our minds are connected through Allah, the unique creator of all that exists. Allah is closer to us than even our jugular vein. Allah, He knows all things. He is omnipresent, omniscient, and all-knowing. So by Imam Mahdi, by embodying the Quran, embodying guidance, by changing one's ways, by being patient and grateful, by praying, by doing what Allah makes lawful, staying away from the unlawful things that Allah forbids. By embodying all this changes oneself. And by changing oneself, this will change the whole, because we are all one within Allah, the unique creator of all that exists. So by changing oneself will help change others, and will help change the condition of the people of the world. And we can see that the Ummah is becoming more united. We're seeing more military successes for the believers. We see the downfall of the tyrants of the world. It's happening step by step, and we are gaining ground, and we are gaining spiritual strength as the days go by. And the shaitan is losing power over the believers, as the shaitan only has power over the disbelievers. And once you are a true believer, then the shaitan will no longer have power over you. As we see in the Quran, that in chapter 90, verse 4, we have certainly created a human being to face obstacles, to struggle hard to achieve a marvelous goal. So it's interesting that Allah says we created a human being to face obstacles and to struggle hard to achieve a marvelous goal. So when Allah refers to we, so Allah had other creations of Allah create human beings. From my understanding and from my knowledge, that when He refers to we, He's referring to other advanced alien entities or beings that Allah has created, that genetically altered human beings with DNA thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. And when they created the human being, they implemented certain DNA commands, like the drive to reproduce, and other subservient DNA commands and other commands that somebody would program software on a computer for their own purposes. So there's a lot of things that we have to overcome in our physical bodies. One of the most obvious one is the DNA command to reproduce. And if this command is not put into check, we can lust and fornicate and do all sorts of vile behavior that our spirits have to overpower this DNA command of lusting over the opposite sex. So another obvious one is self-preservation, that the spirit has to overcome the DNA commands of being selfish by wanting to hoard and obtain more wealth. This is in our DNA, to have these flaws that our spirit, our soul needs to overcome. So by embodying the guidance that Allah provides in the Quran, by the guidance that Allah can metaphorically download into our consciousness, by seeking Allah's guidance, we can start to overcome these DNA commands, realize that we are all one within Allah, and improve our characters by strengthening our souls, by doing what Allah makes lawful, staying away from the unlawful things that Allah forbids, by lowering our gazes, by giving charity. These are ways to empower our souls and our spirits and override these DNA commands that we have. And one of the effective ways to do that is being patient. So as Allah says in chapter 2, verse 155, "And we will certainly reward you after disciplining you with something after fear and hunger and some loss of sustenance and of lives, and with fruits of your toils. So give good tidings to the patiently persevering." So as we see in Gaza, everything's being stripped away from them. They've been put in a fearful situation by being bombed and attacked. We see that they were in hunger, their food and supplies, their aid is being blocked. We see that their sustenance, their houses and families have been destroyed in many cases, and their livelihoods, have been removed. So what is the remedy for this? Is to be patiently persevering. So the important things that we need to be having right now is to be patiently persevering. And this will help us overcome. And we see that the Iman of the Gazan people, they lose everything and they're still praising God and only strengthening their Iman, and great rewards will be definitely waiting for them on the other side. So as Allah says in chapter 3, verse 139, "Therefore slacken not nor grieve, and when you are true believers, you shall certainly be triumphant." So these tests and tribulations that Allah disciplines us with is going to help us be more pure and true believers. And once we reach those levels, then we certainly will be triumphant. And Allah says in chapter 39, verse 10, "Certainly the patiently persevering and steadfast will be giving the reward beyond measure." So Allah always, I find in the Quran, always emphasizes patience and persevering, even in the stories of mentioned in the Quran of past servants of Allah's, that patience is very important. And really being patient really helps us overcome sinful behaviors and opens us up to higher knowledge as well. So believers will certainly have the upper hand, as Allah says in chapter 47, verse 35. Believers, when fighting once starts, do not slack to sue for peace. You will certainly have the upper hand. Allah is with you. He will never let you suffer a loss in the reward of your good deeds. So as the oppression goes on in Gaza and in the Middle Eastern areas and other areas of the world, if we are being aggressed upon, that we should not slacken. We should be steadfast and persevering, patiently persevering. And we should not sue for peace. That if the other side wants to have peace, then we will be open to that. But if they want to continue in their aggression, well, we'll be poised to equitably retaliate and defend ourselves the best way possible. And whoever purifies their soul will certainly succeed, and indeed he is ruined who corrupts it. So as Allah says in chapter 91, verse 7 through 10, and the human soul and that mighty Lord who made it perfect, then revealed to it the soul the ways of its evil and righteousness. All these are cited to witness that one who purifies it, his soul, certainly succeeds, and he indeed is ruined who corrupts it. So one of the important steps of purifying our souls is obviously doing what Allah makes lawful and staying away from the lawful things that Allah forbids. The soul inherently has a moral compass, that it knows when it's doing something right and knows when it's doing something wrong. And one of the key ingredients to purifying our souls is being patient and doing good deeds. And as Allah says in chapter 92, verses 4 through 11, what diverse are the ends you strive to achieve? Then as for the person who devotes all his resources and capacities in the cause of God, gives to others and guards against evil, and declares his faith in all that is best and right, we will then invariably provide him every facility for doing good. But as for him who is stingy and cripples his capacities and is disdainfully indifferent to God and the hereafter, and belies all that is best, we will then of course make easy for him the downhill path to a state of distress, and his wealth will not avail him when he dies. So in this world, Allah makes it easy for doing good and makes it easy for doing evil. And the more good we do, the more easier that good will snowball. And the more evil we do, the more opportunities Allah will give one to do more evil. And we can see, these extremes in the world, like in the, in Gaza, where, they're going in and doing all these heinous attacks, are getting worse and worse, and the atrocities and the oppression is a snowball going downhill. So Allah allows this to happen for a higher good, for the soul to transcend this world and our physical bodies, to perfect the soul, and gives other souls opportunities to help the Palestinians, to do good for them in the face of all this evil and corruption. And one of the main things that they need is military support, and we see who is giving them military support and who is not. So very important to keep that in mind, to be patiently persevering in the face of all this injustice in the world. We see a lot of evidence that Imam Mahdi is in the world, and the world is transforming from injustice to justice, one step at a time. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you take Allah as your shield, and may the peace and blessings of Allah be with you. Thank you. Take care. Peace.